Welcome, everyone. We got Ted here for today's case study, and he's been doing the Kinetic method for over a year now. And he's going to share a little bit more about his journey over the last 12 plus months, where he started and where he is today. So welcome to Ted.
Thank you, Mara. Good to be here.
Good to have you on. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit to everyone watching and, share more about your age, work, height, weight, everything, so that we get the context for the conversation that's about to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So 48 years old, I'll be 49 here in a couple months, 5'10", and I work for State Farm Insurance. I'm an agent, and I've been with the company now 24 years. Started out in claims, was an agent. I spent 12 years in management, and this I'll kind of go into why that particular position kind of affected my my lifestyle or my weight and health. Lived in a few different states, but that position entailed working with a lot of different agents in different cities or parts of the state I was living. And so I spent a lot of time in the car on the road. And so, 25,000 miles a year on the car, visiting agents, which meant lunches, dinners, a lot of times were, I'd say through a window, meaning you go into the drive-through. It was an easy lunch on the road, or dinner. You want something easy. You're going to a fast food or a restaurant, and so that particular lifestyle led to making it tough to maintain a healthy lifestyle or healthy eating habits, things like that. And so now the last few years, I left management, opened my own agency again. So I don't have the travel anymore. So a little bit easier for me to take my own lunch. We still have, business lunches, business dinners, things like that. But a lot of it, revolves with work around food, and not just work, but also I would even say family, get-togethers, holidays, all revolve around food. And so that's kind of the basis for, where you start kind of putting on weight, and it makes it tough to maintain the healthy lifestyle, is when everything revolves around food and good food and desserts and things like that.
Yeah, our environment shapes our success, our reality, and massively influences it. And if you're tempted every day, with a ribeye and ice cream and wine, it's possible, but it's hard. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you said your lifestyle, especially back then with a lot of travels and being in the car, driving all these miles every year, affected your body. How was your body, your health before you started the Kinetic method?
Yeah. I'd always consider myself fairly healthy. I would say I'm probably not unhealthy. I've never had any issues. I don't drink alcohol. I've never had any issues with tobacco or things like that. My vices have been, you mentioned ice cream, cakes, cookies. I mean, there's not a dessert I don't like. And so, I always did pretty good. I mean, earlier in life, I think, the misnomer may have a good metabolism. I was able to kind of eat what I want, not really gain weight. And then as you age and get older, it just doesn't happen. And so I would always maintain my weight. I'd kind of be in the mid 170s, give or take. And I'll talk a little more later about, diet and exercise and how that worked or didn't work. But then just the last kind of few months, or the last year before starting the Kinetic method, I noticed my weight would kind of creep up. I got into the low 80s, and all of a sudden, being able to kind of maintain in those mid 70s just wasn't working anymore. And that's when I realized I probably needed to make a change or do something different than what I'd been doing.
Mm-hmm. And when you consider the change, did you do any other programs before, like diets, keto, fasting, personal training?
Yeah. So what I really did a lot of was, a lot of these workout videos. or you pay online these fees to where you have access to all these different workouts. And I do different workout programs, and I actually enjoyed them. I enjoyed the programs. They're a good mixture between probably weight training and cardio. And I knew that when I did these, I could feel myself feeling stronger. I'd feel like I was in shape. I feel good, but it'd lose a little bit of weight, and my weight would go down, but I never really had the physical change, like the big change that I really wanted. And so even though I could lose the weight, and it was really, it was hit and miss. And I would get into a groove where for months I was really active and working out and exercising, and then after I'd stop a program, or something would happen and I would get out of the habit of doing it, I could go months without working out. And then you kind of gain the weight back, and it's easy to fall back into old habits. And so even though I felt pretty good, and I felt like I was healthy, and I felt like I was in shape, my physical appearance, I never really got, maybe I'd get down into the high 60s from the mid 70s, and I'd lose, 5-10 pounds and look good, but then I'd always just gain it right back after kind of going inactive and moving past the program. And then I'd have to, okay, I've got to get into another program. I got to start something up again. And it was just a cycle for years, up and down, and nothing really that would sustain long term. The other thing I would do is I would do meal replacement shakes for lunch. I did that for years. Um, you know, Replace it for lunch and healthy, but again, it just never really long term didn't make any difference. Not sustainable.
You you said you would drop weight, get into the 160s, but you never had that big transformation, that breakthrough. What what result were you aiming for? Like what were you expecting that end transformation to look like? Is it the six pack or?
Yeah. And for me, it's never necessarily been about what the number is on the scale, even though that number does tell the story and in the end is important. And that's something that, uh, we talk about the kinetic method, and something that I had to kind of break through in my own head. It was, I wanted, I was always the type of person that when people look at me, they wouldn't think, oh goodness, he's overweight or he's fat, because I think I could hide it well. It was kind of displaced. The clothing I wore, people wouldn't guess. But in my mind, I was always self-conscious, kind of taking my shirt off. I've always felt like my love handles have been kind of, my spare tire love handles area that I could hide in the clothing I wore. And that's really what I wanted. I wanted that, the six pack. I wanted to really look good with my shirt off as we go to the beach or go boating or do things like that. And so that for me was really the transformation I wanted. And when we started working together, one of the things that you said, hey, your goal weight is, I think you originally said, we'll get down to, it was at 151. And in
Yes.
my head, I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. I'll just need to put on a lot of muscle, and maybe I'll get down into the low 160s. Maybe I'll get to 160, but I'll have so much muscle that I'll be cut, and my six pack, I'll look great. I'll never get to 151. And that was kind of what I thought in my head. And as time went on, we started seeing the weight go off, and I saw the transformation and the changes. One of the things I realized was, no, 150, I've got to get, and in fact, my lowest point, I got down to 147. And if you'd have asked me or told me when I started with you that we are going to get down into the high 140s, I would have told you you're crazy. There's no way. I mean, that was what I weighed when I was in high school, and there was no way that I was going to get down into the 140s. And that was a mindset shift that I had to make. And it took me a while. It wasn't right away, but at some point we made that shift, and I realized, okay, to get where I want to get to, we got to get down to that 151 or below.
Yeah, especially as you said, when you hide it well, like when you hide the fat well, and then you think, man, I have to drop 30 plus almost 40 pounds. No way. Because, yeah, as you said, you hide it so well that it's hard to accumulate all the pounds because it's distributed so well, right?
Yeah.
but you made it happen, which is good. What would you say was different this time than with all the other programs?
Yeah. And I think, uh, you and I had messaged back and forth several times, I'm sure you get this a lot of, working with a kind of a virtual trainer, someone who's not in the same room with you, and quite frankly, the cost. It's like, okay, do I really want to commit to this? And part of it's the money, but part of it is, okay, am I going to really commit to following, kind of meal plan or really tracking? And then some of the times that I'd had the most success, I'd use some different tracking meal apps, and when I did it, I was successful. And so I think the biggest difference was, okay, if I'm going to go on this, I'm all in, I'm committed. We're gonna track this and do it. And at first it was like, oh my gosh, this is like so there's so much information and so much to keep track of. And what I found the difference was that you really simplify things. And even though it seemed like there was a lot involved, once I got up and running and I started doing it every single day, you quickly realize you learn it, and it's like, okay, it's not that big a deal. The tracking's not as hard. It's not as hard for me to stay on track. I found, and this is what helped me. Uh, I found that I could eat the same thing for lunch every day, and it didn't bother me. And so I just learned, okay, here's what I need to pack for lunch, and I would just make sure I pack my own lunch, take it to the office, and that way, I'm eating a good healthy lunch so I can hit my macros, my calories, and I just got into a good system. And that's one thing about the Kinetic method and working with you that made it easy to get into a really a groove and a system and process, and just be able to go in day out. And anyway, really the only delays that happen for myself when I, you know, going back to times when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna indulge this weekend and we're gonna have a lot of dessert, or have some things, but I still feel like I could have some cheat meals or desserts from time to time. We worked better when I build that into my macros and calories versus just on top of everything. But I quickly learned that I could still enjoy meals and eat things that I liked, and hit my goals.
Yeah, you don't have to sacrifice all the food and your whole life just to get the six pack. You can have both, which you
Yeah.
perfectly showed with your sweet tooth.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about results. We touched a lot on the six pack. What results did you get, maybe weight-wise, but also intangible like energy, focus, like how did that change as well?
Yeah. It honestly, the biggest thing for me, I think, is just overall confidence. And not that I would say I wasn't a confident person, but just getting into the routine and losing the weight and being focused in that area, whether it be my family life or personal life, work life, I really feel like it just gave me just a different inner confidence, in the way I looked at life and looked at things. And it's helped me as I just do different things, in different relationships, things like that. It's helped me, and this is kind of a side note. I feel like I have a great family life, a great marriage, but it gave me also just a different confidence with my spouse. And and the side note is, I've been working toward these things, it's kind of helped her focus a little bit, and she decided she wanted to be a little healthier, and kind of mirrored with me. She's been able to lose 20, 25 pounds, and she's continuing on the
Wow.
same journey. Just so it's been kind of fun to be able to do that together, and just have that our relationship's been strengthened, I'd say, because of it too. So that's been kind of a side note. So I feel like I've been able to focus more at work. I've had a lot of success in my work life. I feel like because of this, I've been able to kind of strengthen my relationship with my wife even more, and we're kind of both on the same health journey, and fitness, and feeling and looking good.
Wow, that's amazing. Did she lose the 25 pounds like following a program or just following your footsteps?
Kind of my footsteps. We'd
Wow.
never really tracked macros before, and so what she kind of did initially is she's got a different app, and she tracked what she eats, and then she started tracking macros kind of based on me, and she wasn't having results, and what she did, she tweaked it, and she found the right blend, kind of reading up on her own of macros that worked for her, and what was right for me wasn't right for her, and she just kind of trial and error found some things that worked for her, and just kind of did her own thing, but and then walking, we like to go on walks, and we like to just do a lot of those things together, but she found what worked for her as I was kind of going on my journey.
Beautiful. When you look back over the last 12 months, would you say there was an unexpected surprise when doing the Kinetic method?
Yeah, and some of the things I've already touched on. Just one that I could lose the weight that I never thought I would. I always thought that being in the low 60s would be kind of like, my gosh, once I get there, I'm done, and that was unexpected. But I just think the biggest surprise was that I've been able now to, when we go out to a restaurant, I'll automatically, and personally, I like a filet mignon better than, say, a ribeye anyway. And so just learning the different, what has more fat or what has more protein, I'll just automatically kind of say, okay, I'll look over the menu and say, okay, oh, that one will fit into my in the calories and the macros, what I'm looking for. And I just automatically, I'm ordering healthier on the menu. And so I'll eat a little bit more healthy meal as I go out, and then depending on the restaurant or where we're at, I'll indulge in some dessert. But the other part of that too is, instead of eating maybe 2 desserts, I'll have one. And so I've just been able to kind of change mindset and be able to kind of indulge, but more in more moderation rather than excess. When I maybe in the past would have been like, well, whatever, let's just go all out, and I'm gonna really indulge, and then you feel sick. And so I found now the other thing is that when you eat healthier, when you don't, that your gut tells you, and you regret doing it. And so just overall, I feel better when I eat healthier, making smarter choices.
Yeah, and that's a lifelong skill. Like, nobody can take that away from you. Like, now you can go out and do it, and no matter no matter where you are, you can go out into a restaurant. We were talking about traveling before. If you're in Europe or Australia, in the US, in Mexico, and hey, if I order this and this and this, without maybe even tracking, I know plus minus I'll hit my targets, and that is one of the most powerful skills.
Yeah, and that was we just got back from a cruise, and I ate 3 meals a day. I had dessert at dinner every night, but I just made a little healthier choices, and I came back weighing about 3 pounds more than when I left, and then I just got back into the routine. And so you find you can go on a week-long cruise, really indulge, enjoy, but you're not going to put on, they say 10 to 15 pounds on a cruise. I mean, you really have to go crazy, and I'm supposed people do, but then you feel horrible. And I was able to go really enjoy my food, enjoy the time there, and not feel like crap when I got back. So that's one thing that I really was unexpected surprise, that just, I feel like I'm putting the building blocks in place for the rest of my life to be healthy and really enjoy life.
You are. So before we start working together, when we first touched base, would you say you were skeptical of doing this? Like that the Kinetic method would work for you and stranger online?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. We talked about Terry, that I saw his results, and I saw enough results. And so one of the things was I believed it would work. I guess my biggest thing that I was skeptical about was, would I be able to commit and do it? And I didn't want to start something if I wasn't going to be able to commit to it. And it wasn't going to be too much of a lifestyle change. Was it going to be too much to do this day in, day out? Was I going to, after a month or two, be like, okay, this is too much for me, I'm out? And that was probably most of my skepticism and most of my question. And like I said, once I got going on it and realized no, this is super easy to incorporate into my life and make this lifestyle change. Your program and you made it really simple. And I'll say just for you, I think you've been fantastic to work with. I can tell you really care about what you do. You care about me, the men you work with. I almost think sometimes you wanted our success more than or just as much as we did. And that shows, and that's encouraging, and it just helped along the way. And I think that kind of got rid of that skepticism and made me realize this is something, you made it easy to do, that hey, I can do this. But I think that was just the biggest question of, is this going to be such a big change? Is it going to be so much that, can I do this? Can I incorporate this into a busy lifestyle with my family, my kids, their schedules, my wife? Can we make it all work? And I realized you can. And so we just overall we found we make healthier meals. If sometimes the kids want to indulge in pizza, then sometimes maybe I'll have one slice instead of two or three. I'll put one slice into the tracker, and then I'll supplement that with other things to help me hit my goals. And I'll just enjoy one slice of pizza instead of like two or three or four that I would do in the past. And so that was the thing that again, it may be surprising, unexpected, but also the skepticism early on of, is this going to be such a big change? Is there so much involved that I can't do it, and I won't do it, and won't have success with it?
So what I'm hearing is you were really skeptical, actually, not because of some of the factors I asked you, but more due to the fact, like, hey, will I be able to commit, and will it just cut too much into my lifestyle? But at the end, you still pull the trigger, and now we're here talking about your success and you inspiring others. So when you look back, what made you decide to still pull the trigger back then, to still give it a go?
It got to the point where I hit my highest weight I'd hit in probably 15 years. And it made me realize that what I'd been doing over the last several years wasn't working. And if I really wanted to get the results that I really hoped for, I had to make a change. It had to be a drastic change. And the more I talked to you or to others who had been on this program, I realized that this was the drastic change I needed to make. Now, in the end, I don't think it was as drastic as I thought it was going to be, but I had to do something different. And I think, the pain got to be enough to what I was looking like, what I felt like. I had pants and clothes that in the past were fit me okay, were tight on me now. And that pain point was like, okay, I've got to make a change. And so that's what finally got the point of that the pain was enough. And it wasn't physical pain, it was just the mental of how I looked and felt, that I had to make a change. And then really quickly, these clothes that became tight became so loose that I couldn't wear them anymore. I went down and started buying some new clothes. And some of these clothes that I bought that I thought I would never fit into a size 32 again, I've got some 32 pants that are so loose now I have to wear a belt with them. And so I find sometimes they don't make a 31 or the size that I need, but it just got painful enough that I knew I had to make a change. And then ultimately kind of just talking with you and believing in what, seeing the results of others, just believing that, okay, if I commit to this, I'm going to get the results that I want. And that's ultimately what made me decide to say, let's pull the trigger and go for it.
Glad you did. Glad those clothes were hurting a little bit. So you decide to give it a go, and here we are today.
Yeah, for sure. I am too.
I have one last question for you. For anyone watching this who's maybe a little bit skeptical on the fence, just like you have been initially, what are your words of advice to that person or to that man? Yeah,
pull the trigger and go for it. One thing I had mentioned as well, and this was part of that skepticism, is it's not just convincing myself, but those of us that are married, and I think I've got a very supportive wife, but her kind of looking at this from the outside, I think she was pretty skeptical too, right? Number one is the cost, but then the commitment, and her like, how's this going to affect our family and lifestyle? And I've heard that from other men as well of, okay, is my wife's not sure she's on board. Is this the right thing? And my advice is just be open about it, have it, the conversation. I was pretty open with her about how it all worked and would look. And now she sees the results, I see the results. So pull the trigger and go for it. I would absolutely recommend it. If you're wondering, is it right for you? It is. It's different than anything you've ever done. And if you want the results that you want to get, you've got to do something different. So I'm always happy to talk to people about my journey and open up more one-on-one with them. But don't hesitate and go for it. So it was the best decision I've made health-wise. I've seen the results. And here's the thing, as I mentioned before, in the past, I'd lose some weight, I'd gain it back, I'd lose some, gain it back. I honestly, for the first time, believe that I'm not, I don't necessarily believe, I know I'm not going to gain it back. I'm now to the point where I've hit, I've hit kind of a baseline, and this is my new baseline. And I may go a little bit up or down from where I'm at right now, but I'm on a journey now to build some more muscle and look better, and you won't regret it. So go for it.
Thank you so much for sharing all the insights on your transformation, and also those last words to the man listening to this. I appreciate you being on here. Thank you, Tad.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mara. Appreciate it.